Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Envy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kenzie Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance blog, what is it called again? Podcast, period. Or you're ugly. Korean Power approved.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Are you ready?
Power. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party. It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
Greetings and welcome one and all to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of the Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance and the United Wrestling Network. And this is DKM. What's up, DK? How are you today?
I don't even know what day it is.
It's Thursday.
Okay, I'm taking your word on it since we're on the show.
Well, you showed up, so you did half of the. You already did half the damn thing. You're here.
Yeah, I've been off since Friday, so all the days have blended together.
I've been off since birth.
Well, that's true. But I've had
man, did you miss me last week?
Well, you show up so rarely anymore. I don't guess I did.
Wow. Shots fired. Hey, man.
Always doing family stuff or something.
Sorry,
obviously,
man.
Obviously, your priorities are not straight. So,
did you happen to tune into the pre-party this last Tuesday? Just a few days ago? The girls invaded the show. They literally took over for a good 3 minutes. And although it was fun, I was like, oh man, what am I supposed to do with this?
No, I mean, it wasn't a joke. I've literally not known what day it is most of the time. And then I'll sit there and go to watch stuff at night and go, what night is it? And I'll be on YouTube and it's like, oh, Jay did a pre-party. Was there an NWA show this week even? I don't There
was one, and I watched it, and it was a bit of a very much I would have classified this as like a in the old adage of the NWA Power Surge as opposed to an NWA Power because it was filled with the main event was the title match between Kenzie and Camille for the Women's Championship from the 75th anniversary pay-per-view, which was a solid match. But I mean, if you were there, you saw it. If you ordered the pay-per-view, you saw it. So it wasn't new. And then some other matches that featured less than desirable a talent, I would say. I mean,
and another intergender match, right?
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and that's kind of why I chose the thumbnail that I chose today. And I adore Misa Kate. She has, when she showed up, I didn't know what to think of her. But the more I see of Misa Kate, the more I become a fan. She really has stepped it up a level. Her and Maddie were such a fun tag team. But
yeah, I miss Maddie.
I miss Maddie too. Maddie, there's Misa K right there in the graphic for this week's podcast. I miss Maddie too, and I think I'm wishing her nothing but the best of luck as she enters into the world of wrestling entertainment. But with that being said, this intergender topic has been huge a huge talking point amongst the internet wrestling community, specifically NWA fans. I don't know how that's going to impact people outside of the National Wrestling Alliance. I don't see a lot of people talking about it except for NWA fans. So I don't know that this is a good thing or a bad thing for the NWA. Are you seeing like other circles outside of NWA fans talking about it?
Well, not specifically. There's normally a conversation of whether intergender is a good thing or bad thing, because there's those who think of wrestling as an artistic television show don't seem to have a problem with it. Those of us who prefer more of a real grind to more realism in it, of course, hate the idea. And it's like, and I don't understand it. I always fall back on what Ronda Rousey said one time when talking about, like UFC fighters, they don't mix them or whatever. And they asked her one time, they go, well, do you think you could beat whoever the men's bantamweight champion was at the time? And of course, she goes, probably could or whatever. She goes, I think I'm the best in the world. She goes, but I don't know that I want that image out there of men hitting women. And there have been studies. So I didn't do them. So don't come yelling at me. But there have been studies that even in the same weight classes, men tend to be stronger and hit harder than women. In the same weight class, let alone a 200-pound man going against, or even, I guess this week, 160-pound man going against, 110, 15-pound woman. It's just, and I don't understand what's going on in that the matches, they're doing these intergender matches, but they don't seem to be, two of them haven't been overly serious. We've had CJ versus Aaron Stevens. We've had Sal versus Misa, which I did not watch, by the way. I did not watch this week's episode. I really have no intention of watching while they do all this intergender crap. And then they kind of had an intergender tag team match where it was a mixed tag team match, but everybody was in the ring together. So there was a lot of interaction between the men and women. And now we all say the NWA has too many titles. So the titles they decide to unify are the women's and men's TV title.
Yeah, I don't.
And what I want to know is, first of all, you'll notice the women have won all the intergender matches so far. And we've already had a thing where our non-binary nightmare pinned Mims cleanly in the ring in whatever that hellhole match was that they did. And so which title are you going to get rid of? A title that they should be featuring regularly on TV for the kind of mid-carders to kind of go through, or the women's title that has barely been around and has only had 2 champions? So, you start thinking about it. And, does it do Mims any good to win a women's title? And so then, are they eliminating the title of the person who wins, or is it now an intergender title? Are we going to be, which I think if it ends up on Max, it will end up being intergender. And I think it's going to end up on Max, by the way. Because, like I said, it does no good for Mims to win it.
Well, so here's a couple of things. And I did listen to our pals yesterday, Scooby, Jeremy, and Tim, the other Alliance guys, and they dove into this topic. And the sentiment is that from them and the people who are mostly watching that show is that episode, that live stream, they don't want this to happen. They did not request this match between Mims and Max. And I really feel like nobody asked for this match. Maybe Max asked for it. We know that James Mitchell kind of alluded to it. You better watch out, Mims, or we're coming after your title as well. And I don't think any of us really put too much stock in that when he said that. It seems like, I've been thinking about this a lot because there's almost zero build to this match. And maybe as it plays out, as we get through the return to Bobarts, maybe it will have a storyline to go and coincide with it. But so far, this match has just been like a fever dream of, the executive board of the NWA Championship title committee. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now, but no one, I haven't heard anyone demanding this title match. I've never heard anyone say, let's see what Max could do against the men. Now, I will say this. There's precedent for the National Wrestling Alliance, specifically the Lightning One era, to have intergender matches. We've been seeing them. You pulled out a few of them. You forgot about Daisy Kills versus Max from the live events that they did as the World is a Vampire tour. They were also part of the matchup in 2022 at Nuff Said, where they were crowning the contenders for the TV title. And Max was in the ring with Jordan Clearwater. I had my notes in front of me, but I don't have them right now. Jordan Clearwater, I want to say Scion, excuse me. And of course, Max didn't end up winning that match, but they were very much a part of that match. And then Max had teamed with Jennacide to take on the Looks Can Kill, Mercurio and Markova. That happened earlier this year, back in February. And so they've been putting these matches out there where we have been getting this intergender wrestling. And the thing about it too is I know that if you're trying to be fitting in with the social norms and the identifying the correct pronouns, if that's something that you're interested in, Max doesn't identify as a woman. Max also doesn't identify as a man. Max is non-binary, no gender. So for Max to win either title, I mean, it's kind of interesting because they can really paint themselves into a corner here, or they can give themselves an absolute out. Because if you do not have a gender, then maybe you should not be challenging for either title, right? Because each title has a gender. It's the men's television champion. It's the women's television champion. But if you don't adhere to either gender, then, I mean, I don't know. It feels like maybe that you're not allowed to challenge for those titles. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I understand the non-binary nightmare. I hate to use the word gimmick, as I understand that Max is non-binary as her preferred choice. And, look, whatever you believe on that, you believe. I don't care. I have my beliefs. Other people have their beliefs, yada, yada, yada. But she's been part of the women's division. And I'm using she purposely here because that's where they've put her, in the women's division, even if she's a them, they. And yeah, they've mixed him in with a couple of matches, male matches. But there gets to a point of being, and that's why I think they're doing this. I think they're ultimately, and why I think Max will ultimately win. But then, again, does it become an intergender title? Does it stay an intergender title? If Max defends against a female, does it become is it only for the women's TV championship? Defends against a male, it's only for the men's championship? Because they're making it sound like a title unification. So, the world is confusing enough. And I'm going to fall back on Jim Ross's thing. Wrestling is simple. Put two, a good guy in the ring and a bad guy in the ring, give them a reason to be there. And that's basically it. And I don't know that we need social commentary. That's not part of it. I mean, look, in boxing, women are fighting to fight the same number of rounds for the same minutes per round, because they only had 2-minute rounds and only 10-round fights. And I guess the World Boxing Association, I think, recently changed their rules to allow the women to fight the same as men. But in boxing, you're not going to see a man versus a woman. In MMA, you're not going to see a man versus a woman. And, in college sports and pro sports, there's large controversies over biological males and female things, where female sports where, they're not on any type of hormone therapy. They're not having any surgeries. They're not, it's a man with a penis, competing in women's sport. And so Sam Retro goes, I feel like Billy's trying to backtrack on what Tyra said and cater to those people who was most offended. And you're not the first person I've heard say that. You're not even the second person I've heard say that. That does seem to be a theme that's out there. And if it is, it's stupid. Let's just forget. We're all trying to forget Tyrus. And so let's not do things to make up for it. And this type of thing is just, it gets to the point of being ridiculous. And it's not even new. I mean, intergender matches, we all remember China holding the Intercontinental title. We remember Medusa holding the Cruiserweight title. And
you're stealing my thunder, man. Just stick to the current topic.
Sorry. But, it's not even a new concept. And of course, there was that one video with, what was her name? Cherry Bomb or something?
Cherry Bomb?
Or maybe that was a tag team. Cherry something, but there was a video of her taking an unprotected chair shot from a guy.
Was that Deuce and Domino with Cherry?
I don't remember.
Okay. Don't bring it up if you can't give me details. I don't know.
Cherry Bomb sounds familiar. I just remember the image of her taking the chair shot.
There was a point in time where I wasn't watching almost any wrestling that wasn't independent wrestling. So there's big chunks of WWE history that I'm unfamiliar with because I just wasn't watching at the time.
Oh, no, this is an independent show.
Oh, an independent show.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an independent show. I mean, I don't know. I just remember that there was a lot of controversy over that chair shot.
Oh, that was Kimberly.
Was it Kimberly?
Yeah, where they powerbombed her onto the chair.
And they powerbombed her, but she was hit in the head with the chair.
Yeah.
On her knees.
Yeah, she got jacked up.
Yeah, and it was, You know, it wasn't a pleasant thing to watch. It was very uncomfortable to watch. And we have to be careful on what stories we're trying to tell. You know, comedy, you know, like Jim Cornette said, him versus Sunshine. Well, you kind of believe Sunshine could beat him up. And it was never going to happen anyway because you couldn't do that in Texas at that time. So, you know, Kabuki comes in and thrust kicks him and, you know, Sunshine pins him and whatever.
Well, it's like the Missy Hyatt, Missy Hyatt and Paul Heyman arm wrestling match, right?
Yeah, I mean, non-athletic men getting in the ring with either non-athletic women or athletic women, that's always been a gimmick here and there.
So can I go on my tirade for a bit? You mind listening to me talk for a minute?
Well, sure, because I'm pretty much finished my tirade.
So I feel like, so this is, look, DKM and I are pretty much in agreement with how we are viewing this. Sam Retro said it, like, this kind of feels like a publicity stunt. It kind of feels like an F you to Effie, if I can say that. You know, Effie came out here and talked about how Billy Corgan allowed Tyrus to say these homophobic things, which never happened on their programming, by the way, never happened on an episode of Power. But I get it. I digress. It feels like they are trying to appeal to a certain market, and that isn't for me either. You know, I understand why, but I like you said, DKM, I feel like wrestling's better when it is simple. Now, when it comes to Max isn't the traditional women's wrestler. They represent themselves as being genderless, being non-binary. And that gives you a little bit of a leeway, because if Max doesn't adhere to a gender, maybe they, I like to use proper pronouns. For anyone in the chat, I know Willie has said it a few times. Hey, man, that doesn't matter to me. I try to be respectful. If a person wants to be identified as a certain gender, I'm all right with that. Even if it's a no gender. I'm okay with that. And I understand I'm not trying to push that on anybody else, but that's how I'm going to roll. So if you don't like it, that's cool. I get it. You don't have to follow suit, but that's what I'm going to do. But when it comes to Max has already had matches in the NWA against men. Max has had matches against Daisy Kill, matches teaming with Judias. Heck, she was in the ring with the world's heavyweight champion at the Crockett Cup. Was it a title match? No, but Max was in the match with the world's heavyweight champion. And I do feel like this is getting to a point where, you know, I'm going to just play devil's advocate here, because I've heard a lot of people say why this is stupid. And again, I'm not calling for this match. I wasn't the one demanding to see Max challenge Mims for this title. But if we're going to go there, I want to show that there is precedent in the world of wrestling where this has happened before. And it's happened not just recently, but it's happened, you know, in the past 20 years. You got to remember the WWF Hardcore Championship, you know, that was held by at least 3 women. In fact, let me go to my notes here, because I did a little research today. Now, I know the Hardcore Championship does not have the prestige of an NWA Television Championship, but I mean, you have to at least acknowledge it, right? And I mean, okay, going back into 1999, you know, China defeated Jeff Jarrett for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Straight up, one-on-one match. China would go on to hold the Intercontinental Championship 3 times. Now, you could make any argument that you want, but with that being said, China was in the ring with Jeff Jarrett, who would go on to become the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion multiple times. Would go on to become the WCW World's Heavyweight Champion multiple times. And literally be a wrestling deity with all the world championships that he had. Also, the same could be said with Chris Jericho. First, unified world's heavyweight champion. China shared the ring with Chris Jericho, won the title from him. So again, I'm just showing there's a precedent here where if a performer is at a level that they deem can be in a men's match, then okay, they did it. And you go to WCW and our very own Medusa, who I don't know what Medusa's role with the NWA is at this point, but there was a time where she produced and was an agent for the NWA. Medusa defeated Evan Courageous for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, one of the most prestigious championships in WCW during that era. I mean, I guess it had faltered a little bit with Evan Courageous being champion, but Medusa, they put the belt on Medusa, and then they kind of turned that into a joke by having Medusa lose to the parody of Jim Ross. So that one certainly did take a turn for the worse. The WWF Hardcore Championship, there had been 3 women's champion, including one of the best women's wrestlers out of the WWF in Trish Stratus, WWF Hall of Famer. Now, again, the Hardcore Championship was kind of a parody title as well, and there's a lot of satire involved with that. But needless to say, when you look at the annals, when you look at her title history, Trish Stratus is a former Hardcore champion. And then when you look at the WWE 24/7 champion, there was over 198 different title changes for that championship. And that belt was on celebrities. I mean, it was on Bad Bunny. It was on Gronkowski. It was on an NBA player. It was on I think it was on a NASCAR driver. It was on referees, but it also was held by 12 separate women while it was an active champion. And the last champion was Nikki Ash. And I know, again, that was more of a comical title. It was more of a parody, but it was more of the WWE normalizing having a title that could be defended against anybody at any time. We could look to TNA wrestling. TNA, Tessa Blanchard defeated Sami Callihan to win the, I believe that was the Impact World Championship, right? And she wasn't the only one. Right? Like, she wasn't the only woman to hold a men's title in Impact, because we know when they introduced the Digital Media Championship, not only were there 3 women and 3 men in that match, but the person who won it was Jordan Grace, first champion. So, I mean, the 3 biggest wrestling companies of my time, I know AEW is kind of there now, but, the WWF, WCW, and TNA wrestling all had these women holding champions, right? And even you look at ECW, the Extreme Championship Wrestling. Hell, Jazz was wrestling men back in those days, back in the early mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. So it's not unheard of. And you even look at Lucha Underground, which featured a lot of up and coming talent. You had Ivelisse and Cobra Moon both being on different teams to hold the trios tag titles. You had Sexy Star as the Gift of the God champion, and Sexy Star was also the Lucha Underground champion. Now, again, I know Lucha Underground for some people was just silliness and whatever, but there has been a normalization of having women hold men's championships in the sport of professional wrestling. It's not something that just happened in the last month or last year. Going back to 1999, it's been happening. Does that make it right?
Well, I was going to say that begs the question of, just because it's happened, does that mean it should be going on? You know what else used to happen in wrestling a lot? Tommy Dreamer used to pile drive Beulah McGillicuddy so many times that she ended up pregnant. Valets used to get spanked.
Mm-hmm.
Divas used to get spanked.
One of the hardcore champions was literally identified as Godfather's hoe.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that this isn't something that the NWA is capitalizing on. It's something that's been happening for some time. In fact, Impact beat them to the punch.
Well, I mean, there are two things can sound different, but not necessarily be mutually exclusive. I do think they're trying to capitalize.
Sure.
But it's something that's happened before. And it was something that shouldn't have happened back then. I mean, look, go back and watch Mid-South just shortly before they became UWF. And one of the biggest pops you'll ever hear from a crowd is when Dark Journey blinds Jake the Snake Roberts, and then he mistakenly grabs her. Apparently, he doesn't realize that the person he's holding is short and weighs 80 pounds, and DDTs her. Boy, listen to that crowd pop. I mean, they exploded with excitement. Could you do that today? Probably not.
I mean, no, I think you could. I think we've seen it.
Could you? I mean, a non-athlete female in there getting dropped on her head by a guy.
So when we were in St. Louis, and some of you were there live and some of you there watched on pay-per-view, and I know what Willie's going to say. Yes, Pollo is a man in drag. Yes. But Pollo is also not a pro wrestler. Pollo is a valet, manager, whatever you want to call him. Pollo is not an active competitor for the NWA, but Pollo took a thrill ride in the middle of the ring during a title match, and there was a mixed reaction. There were some people who thought it was great. Some people were like shocked because they saw it again. I mean, yeah, it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't think that is the same. I mean, just personally speaking, I don't think it is the same. And again, you know, if it was a, you know, Camille versus some of the people where they're about the same size and stuff like that, you probably get the same reaction. But I don't think you could get a 6'4", 240-pound man in a, you know, 5'4", 120-pound woman and still get that reaction that day. And certainly not without getting some kind of blowback.
That's
again,
fair.
I mean, again, like I said, look at the things that have stopped. You don't. Nobody is. None of the guys are taking on Rhea Ripley, even though Rhea Ripley's as big and bad as, you know, bigger than badder than some of them, and everything like that.
Would the
we are unlikely to see Randy Orton RKO her.
Ronda Rousey put Adam Pearce in an armbar on an episode of Raw, and that also had
a woman beating on a man will always be okay. A man beating on a woman much smaller than him will never be okay at this time.
Let's talk about the NWA. Let's talk about if this was Camille in this role. Let's say Camille was challenging Mims for the TV title.
That'd still be opposed.
Okay. Would it be different, or is it exactly the same? Because
exactly the same thing. I mean, look, Max might be bigger than Mims.
I think Max is bigger than Mims in terms of.
I mean, if you just put them side by side, I don't know weight and strength and all that stuff. But
he's a big, strong boy. Don't take that out of consideration. He's a big, strong boy.
Yeah, but I'm just saying though, if you just stood them next to each other, I think Max would probably be a little bit bigger than Mims, and so, I mean, in that essence, so be it. But again, I was talking about, you know, like the weight divisions in boxing and UFC, and they go, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see men versus women, you know, crossing, let alone a different sizes. But you wouldn't see different sized men facing each other like you do in wrestling,
right?
But that doesn't make it okay for it to be a man versus a woman. And, you know, I think it opens up a lot. Now you can sit there and go, well, we're talking about it. If you're talking about it, then that's a good thing. Like I always say, bad publicity, there is such a thing as bad publicity. You know, there are I mean, look, I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to know if the Tyrus experiment was a success or a failure, go watch some of the year-end stuff that Wrestle Talk put on, where people turned in, like worst pay-per-views. People turned in like NWA 75, NWA Saw Win. One person turned in every NWA pay-per-view there was. And the reason that these things didn't get higher in the rate, were in the honorable mentions, is because not enough people watch them. Not enough people watch them. And boy, talk about, they smashed the NWA over Tyrus as champion as being just one of the worst things ever. They smashed the cocaine spot as being one of the worst things ever. They claim they're out to reach the casual fan. Here's a site that caters to the casual fan, the AEW fan, WWE fan, casual fan, and they say, God, when talking about MLW, they go, MLW is probably raised above the NWA now after Tyrus and cocaine. To be a better company and bigger and more important. The NWA's been smashed this year by those who cater to the average wrestling fan, which I
have a counterpoint.
Point.
Do you think that perhaps the reason why there's so much talk about the NWA this year as opposed to last year and how terrible it's been is because they've actually done things of more notoriety this year than they have in any previous year? Going back to the 70th anniversary show, when you had Cody freaking Rhodes there, what have they done of that magnitude since?
Okay, but this boils back to what I was saying. This holds the philosophy, and Dave Marquez was kind of arguing it too. Hey, if people are talking about it, it's a good thing.
No, I disagree with that. I do disagree with that, and I do believe there is bad controversy. But I do also feel like there is a bigger spotlight now on the NWA because they've moved up into that arena for people to be more critical. Before, they were doing their thing in the dark. We were the only ones talking about the NWA. You remember that, DK?
If there was good stuff being talked about as well as bad stuff, I'd go, okay. We'll take the bad and we'll promote the good. But people aren't saying good things.
I also feel like a lot of that has to do, again, and look, we're probably saying the same thing here, but just saying it in a different way. I feel like the NWA did a lot to earn bad will, not goodwill, the opposite of goodwill, bad will, when you had a guy who could not wrestle as your world's heavyweight champion for an extended period of time. I feel like that turned a lot of people off, and that put a negative focus on the NWA. There was a lot of people excited about EC3 coming to the NWA. There were a lot of people excited about that TV, and we still don't know about the TV deal. And that's the thing that also bothers me too. There's been no formal announcement on the TV. We do know that they're on the CW app. We don't know what the rest of that means. We don't. And anyone who says they know what's going on, they're either lying or it's Billy himself. Because no one else has said anything. There's been no formal announcement with CW. There's been no formal announcement from the NWA. Anybody who else is saying something, the Hausmans of the world, it's bullshit. It's convoluted hearsay from some, misanthrope in the back who isn't getting enough time on TV. So, with that being said, I feel like there is a bigger spotlight on the NWA now. More people are obviously aware. Maybe they're not watching. Maybe they're not ordering the pay-per-views. Maybe this is a trying to dangle a carrot to capture a new audience. Do I think it's the right move? No, I don't. I want to make that clear. I am not supporting this match. Am I going to watch it? Yeah, I'm going to watch the pay-per-view. That's what I always do. But I'm not looking forward to this match. I haven't been asking.
Is it a pay-per-view?
Oh, excuse me. It is a live event. It's a live. Basically, it's a filmed live event. They keep saying that it is a CW taping. Now, again, what does that mean? No one really knows. Is it the CW app? Is it CW TV? Nothing's been like verified. And with that being said, too, there's a lot of conversation in the chat. Is this a unification match? They never said it's a unification match. They said there must be a winner, title for title. What does that exactly mean? I guess that means, if I were to look at it right now in only black and white, if Mims wins, Mims is unable to defend against women. He's going to relinquish the title. They will find a new champion. If Max wins, Max being, non-binary, doesn't conform to either gender. If Max wins, Max gets to hold both belts. So it really is just a lose-lose situation for Mims. If he beats Max, then what? I mean, sure, Max is an imposing figure. Max is also one of the future, superstars of this new NWA, this new brave world that we're in. But what does this do for Mims? Win or lose, he doesn't really gain ground.
Yeah, I mean, which is part of what telegraphs who's going to win. Now, could they swerve us?
Yeah.
Okay, they could, but then what have you accomplished then?
It really, and again, I said this in our private chat, I'll say it here. This is the convoluted booking styles of one William Patrick Corgan, where he wants us all to think something's going to happen. Remember, they did the same thing with Nick Aldis going into his match with Marty Scurll at the Crockett Cup 2020. That never happened because COVID came in and stopped it from happening. And it's almost like I wish COVID would come and stop this. They went too far. Yeah, Icarus is too close to the sun. You're flying too high, Billy. I get what you're trying to do. I get that you're trying to make amends maybe with the LGBTQ plus community. Cool, but this isn't the way to do it. I don't think anyone has asked for a unification for the TV titles. I don't think anyone wanted to see Max taking on Mims. They started developing a perfectly good storyline.
All right, I do have something for you here, since you were bringing it up. This is what they have on their Facebook site. Breaking, just handed down from NWA management at NWA Paranoia, hashtag NWA Paranoia. Max the Impaler will face Big Strong Mims one-on-one in a world television title unification match. We have also been told that there can be no time limit draw, as there must be a winner. So they are calling it a title unification match.
Okay.
Now, unified as in unified forever, or unified as in when they unify boxing titles, you just happen to hold two.
I still stand by what I said. I think it's a bad idea for them. I don't think this is going to end well for the NWA. They as Jammin' Music Man says, I wish they would just go with Mims versus Dax. They started building that on, I think that was last week's Power, where, Mims accepted offered the opportunity for Dak Draper to challenge for the title. And when the things weren't going Mims' way, he held out, kind of developing a more heelish version of Mims, a heel version of Mims we had yet to see. When everyone kind of thought that Dak Draper might be the guy to go heel on the tag team. Now you got Mims acting very heelish in his actions. To me, that was interesting. That made a lot of sense. And, they also announced that, Max the Impaler had 7 successful victories as the NWA Women's Television Champion. Therefore, Max the Impaler should have the opportunity to challenge for the Burke. That's the match that I wanted to see. Max versus Kenzie Part 3.
Yeah, because there's a story behind it, because they face each other, they're 1-1. I mean,
there was so much positive for both sides. That's the matches that should have been, but then they decided for whatever reason. And look, Billy Corgan is, as far as I know, is straight edge, so I don't think it's because he's doing a pound of coke in the back. That's not it. It's literally just booking for the sake of booking, being convoluted for the sake of being convoluted. Nobody asked for the match. Nobody wanted this match. And now that's what they're presenting at this live event. Now, are they trying to adhere? Like, are they trying to show the CW that they could be risque, that they could do some off the wall things, maybe that could interest the CW in putting that on TV? Maybe. I'm not in the boardrooms, you know. I'm not hearing what Billy's hearing, and maybe there's something. Maybe they're asking him to do something out of the box to get more notoriety on the NWA. I don't know, but I don't think this is it. I don't think this is a good move.
All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this particular issue before we go? Because I want to talk about a couple of other matches they've announced for it.
Real quick, our pal Treduckus, who used to join us via Twitch, is now here on YouTube, and he says that he wants to see, or he thinks that John McChesney, will win the world title and save the NWA. And if not, we have to send it to Ray Gonzalez. No goddamn Ray Gonzalez. Sorry. I get a little touchy with that Ray Gonzalez stuff, and Treduckus knows this.
Yes.
And Eric Dale says Aldis versus Marty Scurll would have been a good match. I mean, we saw it already. It was okay. It was good. I'll give you, it was good. The first time around, it was good. But by the second time it happened, it was only a few months later that there would be a lot of accusations and a lot of things that just painted Marty Scurll in a bad light. And I don't think you'd want him to be your world champion when all that stuff came to fruition. And it just kind of happened, COVID happens, the pay-per-view gets canceled. Then all of a sudden we lose David Lagana because of these similar allegations with the whole Me Too thing that happened in the wrestling. And it pulled Marty Scurll from the world of wrestling. Now I know he's back. He's wrestling in Mexico with AAA. I know he's doing a podcast, but I still feel like if you could imagine at the time when Dave Lagana is Me Too'd because of stuff that he did, and then that happens with Marty as your world champion, I really feel like that would have probably been the death knell for the NWA.
Yeah, especially since COVID was already so.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit.
Let's switch gears. I love that idea. That's all we're going to talk about as far as intergender goes. If you guys want to talk more about that, we have a Discord. Jump on the Discord and enjoy the conversation there. But for the rest of the night, we're moving on. Right, DK?
Yes, we are. Because we got some other interesting things that I want to get opinions on. So there are two other matches that have been announced recently. So let me read the actual announcements, Jay, and then I'll get you your thoughts.
Yeah.
So, again, from the NWA Facebook page, 2 new matches have just dropped for hashtag NWA Paranoia. First, in what may be his biggest challenge yet, Colby Carino defends the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship against former World Tag Team Champion Mechawolf. And in a strange turn of events, due to their mutual interest in this match, Carino will have the Insane Clown Posse's Violent J in his corner. Speaking of big-time challenges, the Country Gentlemen, now Brother Team, that's my input there, have been on a roll since switching up their game plan. But the past won't stay dead forever as Anthony Andrews returns to the NWA to seek revenge for his betrayal at the hands of the Casanas. However, to plan this vengeful return has Andrews sold his soul because in his corner to battle his former teammate, he's enlisted the services of Austin Idol and his masked assassin Zion, as opposed to Simon. So, 2 big matches. Do you care about either one of them? And what do you think of Violent J being with Steve Carino?
Colby Carino. And
Colby Carino. Sorry.
I'll be honest, this isn't. It's not a churn off for me, if that makes sense. Like it's not like I don't immediately hate it. I kind of see where the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Violent J really doesn't have a lot to do with Colby Corino, but I feel like there's other things happening here. And if I could be so bold as to make my prediction now, are you all right with that?
Sure, go ahead.
I feel like there's been a camaraderie earned between Violent J and Mechawolf. And now that Mechawolf is the lone wolf and he's not with Bestia 666 or Vampiro, maybe he's moving towards a mentorship, a relationship, a management role for Violent J managing Mechawolf. And maybe this is the opportunity to cash in and win a junior heavyweight title for Mechawolf as Colby Corino, who has somehow found himself, unofficially enlisted in the Violent J, party. Violent J comes out there and then screws him over to give the victory to Mechawolf. I think would set up some interesting storyline down the road. And also, if that means, there's been this constant rumor since Colby Corino's come back that he isn't long for the NWA, that he's going to go to the WWE now that the hiring freeze is over and all that stuff. I don't know if that's the case. It's just me speculating, but the swerve is the swerve itself. The swerve that he's managing Colby. No, now he's going to turn on Colby. I think that would lend itself to put some heat on Mechawolf as a heel and put the junior heavyweight championship on him, which I think would be a lot of fun. Mechawolf, he's a big guy for being a junior heavyweight, but he's still a junior heavyweight.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's definitely a junior heavyweight. So.
And apparently there won't be a TV title for him to wrestle for, so, why not?
Why not? I don't know. Why? That's all I really want to know is why.
By the way, yes, I am around. I just got your message on my phone.
Well, I'm glad. Now, Colby hasn't been champion just real long, only since August.
But in that time, he's really made up for, I think he's got something like 16 defenses.
Yeah, I mean, he's wrestled a lot. So, I don't know. I don't know that it's time to switch the title unless he is actually going somewhere. But I don't know that he's actually going somewhere either. Again, this is something that a lot of people always seem to think. And, so-and-so's off. Yeah, we'll see. Even, a lot of them, he's already been there. And so it would be a matter if they want him back or not.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing too. And you and I, we talk about wrestling all the time offline, but I don't think you and I have had this particular discussion. So this might be interesting.
Okay.
When it comes to wrestling, your world's heavyweight title, especially something as prestigious as the 10 pounds of gold, I don't think that title should be passed around frequently. I think that title should be mostly secured on the waist of the champion until someone better comes along to take the title off of that person. But when it comes to some of the undercard titles, the national championship, the TV championship, even the world junior heavyweight championship, I don't know if I have a problem with having a lot of title changes. Like you've got a guy like Joe Alonzo who, I don't know, man, he's pretty good. I like that kid. He's got a lot of spitfire in him. And I don't think it would hurt Colby Corino if Joe Alonzo won that title only for Colby to win it back. And I don't think it would hurt Colby Corino if Mechawolf won the title by hook or by crook only for Colby to win it back. Like, I don't even think Colby has to be leaving the NWA for him to lose the title. It creates that scenario of him chasing for the belt again, which was kind of a fun run when he was chasing the title. What more can he do as champion at the moment? He's beaten basically the junior heavyweight division. I mean, looking at Colby's run here in the NWA, he defeated Jack Cartwheel. He defeated Matt Vine. He defeated Brogan Finley before he went to All Japan. He defeated Joe Alonzo. He defeated Mo Jabari. He defeated Joe Ocasio. They haven't set him up in a match with Alex Taylor. There has been no return match with him and Kerry Morton. It doesn't look like he's going to be wrestling against Gaagz or Sal. It doesn't look like they're going to put him in the ring with Rolando. So who's left in the junior heavyweight division for him to wrestle?
Well, they bring people in and out all the time. So I suppose there's always somebody they can put. They're not the best. Kerry held the title for over a year? Or just short of a year?
Yeah. He won the title at Hard Times when he defeated Homicide last year and then lost it at the 75th to Colby.
Right. So he held it just under a year.
Yeah.
But he held it a pretty long time. So I suppose there's my thought is your world championship reign, 1 to 2 years. Your national champion is like a 6 to 9 month reign, and your TV title's the 3 to 4 months, just by its nature. And so, you kind of got that. And not that you can't have short reigns in the other, but you're really trying to more hold it, hold those titles a little bit steady. And I kind of like the world junior heavyweight title and the world women's title kind of being that same group with the men's. You want to at least get kind of like a year out of your champion if you can. And again, not to say that you can't have short reigns or hot shotted or transition, but it really got to be to the benefit of the title. I don't know that when they hot shot at the women's tag team belts that it helped.
Well, let's be honest. The women's tag team division has been there hasn't been a secure champion since the inception of the title. I mean, even the Hex only had a handful of defenses before the original Pretty in Power won those titles. And then Pretty in Power lost them to the Renegade Twins, who were only in the NWA for about 2 or 3 months, and then they were gone.
Well, really, they were only in for a few days because...
Right. And then you had M95, which I love the tag team. And of course, I'm happy that Misa's going on to Maddie's going on to bigger and better things. That WWE pay scale, I'm sure, is going to be wonderful for her. But I felt like her and Misa really connected as a tag team. They were really good. And it's a shame that they're not around as a tag team anymore. But then you have Ella and Kylie, who I feel like also have been a very good tag team. And, there's still the Killer Bees. Not Killer Bees, the King Bees, who recently made their debut. But the women's division isn't really solid with its tag team anyway. So for having somebody like, if Pretty Empowered hang on to those titles for a while, that's fine because it's already been hot shotted so much. But the junior heavyweight title has been, has had more or less long-standing champions. The national champion, for me, I feel like the national champion needs some stability because it's bounced around a lot since its inception. The TV title, I feel like it's been both because, Jordan Clearwater didn't hold that belt for very long. You had Tom Latimer hold that title to get to that title shot that he unfortunately wasn't able to win. But before him, Tyrus held it for almost a year. Pope held it for a very long time. It would benefit, I think, to be hot shotted a bit to kind of mix it up. And again, it's for going back to the whole Mims versus Max thing. And we're not going to go into it too much, but this would have been a perfect time to put that belt on Dak Draper and have them go back and forth with that title for a bit. Not every TV champion needs to win the Lucky Seven. In fact, it's better when they don't.
No, and we've kind of had that. The women's was kind of weird in that Mackenzie lost on her Lucky Seven, I think.
No, she had she had won. No, you're right. She lost in the Lucky 7, but she won the Burke Invitational.
Right. So, I mean, she actually lost. So she held the title, 36 title defenses, and then on her 7th, she lost it. And then the next night, she won the world title, which was a beautiful booking.
Forever failing forward, it was Kenzie. Kenzie.
Right. And so it was a good thing. But yeah, I mean, if they were going to unify titles because they have too many, unify the national TV belt.
Well, and I don't think the men's division is the problem. I think it's the women's division. And although I feel like there's more women in the NWA at the moment, I don't know how many of them will actually stick around, but you've got the aforementioned world champion, Kenzie Page, Ella Envy, Kylie Page. You have this, Roxy is still around in the NWA. You have Tiffany Nieves, who looks to be an up and comer, who, she holds gold elsewhere. She might be the one to really be the one to track down Kenzie. And then you've got Misa Kate, who I feel like is maybe that's what I'm looking for. A stronghold in the women's division. You still have Natalia Markova, who they can't figure out what they want to do with her. You've got Taylor Wilde. You've got Taylor Rising, excuse me. There's a lot of women that on the roster that just aren't being utilized in a smart way.
So I have a question for you.
Let's hear it.
Getting back to the women's TV title, one of the things we talked about is how sometimes, you don't put a title on Andre the Giant because how do you get the title off Andre the Giant?
Right.
Without breaking his mystique. And so then a question becomes, so they put the television title on Max.
Yes.
So how do you get it off Max without her having to cash in and then not winning the world championship? And so, but then what that brings up is, what do you do with the title? I mean, because theoretically, if Max was, I mean, if I had to do this intergender match, which I absolutely wouldn't, and I don't want to go back there too much, but if I had to do it, I would have put something like Max somehow, she cashes in the world champion for a world title. She doesn't win the world title for whatever reason. She loses by disqualification, whatever you want to keep her strong. Then you could sit there and say, well, Max is going to go after the, men's title once. I still won't like it. I still wouldn't, I'd still rail against it, but at least then there's a story.
Yeah.
That fits her non-binary nature. But getting back just to the thing is like, who take Max out of the equation, who should be the women's television champion? And who should be the group of women that are challenging and winning and losing and becoming 5-time television champions and and that type of stuff. And so my cloud victim, first I'm going to tell you, we've already beaten the intergender stuff to death. So, but cloud victim, who should be after the women's television championship if we take Max out of the equation? He's like that, he leaves. Jay, who should be in that group?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we kind of already alluded to it. When it comes to the TV title, at this point, I think he's back. I think at this point, maybe a Ruthie J would make a good challenge for the TV title. I also feel like, of course, Misa Kate would probably be. Misa Kate's my choice. First and foremost, I know I said Ruthie J first. Misa Kate would be my choice because I feel like Misa Kate could be your next women's world champion. but I know they don't want to rush that. I know they want to build up to that. So, she could have a feud with Ruthie J over the TV title. There's still, Taylor Rising. They don't really have a secure spot for her. I feel like above and beyond that, challenging for the world championship would be somebody like Tiffany Nieves, also Natalia Markova, and Max.
Okay. Question. Should, just your opinion, would you put the title on somebody like Markova?
For the world title or the TV title?
The world.
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't hesitate to put the title on Markova. I feel like, dang, he just keeps dropping out.
He doesn't love us tonight.
I feel like Markova should have already won the women's championship. I know the storyline was that they wanted to really build up Kenzie and give Kenzie that spotlight. But Markova similarly has, she's put in the work, man. She's a great athlete. She's a great wrestler. She has a really good look too. I mean, that's beside the point. But she's wrestling in Mexico. She's wrestling all over the U.S. Putting her in that role, I feel like right now her and Kenzie would have an interesting storyline going forward. Markova could be like, "Hey, I softened up the champ for you, and you took advantage. Now give me my shot." But they haven't done that. They haven't even put them in the same ring together. And I feel like that's a misstep.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting question. I kind of like, your top titles to stay pretty consistent. I don't mind a 2-time champion or, even 3-time champion. I think after you get that, you're kind of getting a little bit ridiculous. But some of the lesser titles, I mean, why wouldn't, you get somebody that holds the TV title 3 or 4 times? And get some feuds going. It's almost something that's left the consciousness of wrestling, except in WWE. It would seem like we should have some more title changes on those lesser titles in between, or even the tag titles, and stuff. I mean, imagine how much more interesting Mechawolf and Bestia's title reigns might have been if, instead of just that one title loss in Regain, there was 1 or 2 others in there. Okay. Yes, they're the champions for the better part of 2 years, but, you had a 2-month reign here or 5-week reign there just to kind of keep it up.
Yeah, I mean, Mechawolf and Bestia had, they dropped the titles of the Commonwealth Connection. They never got that rematch. They ended up defeating Hakare to become champions again, which, again, I don't have a problem with, but I felt like it would have been better if they would have been able to get that victory back from Harry Smith and, what's his name?
Doug Williams.
Wow.
Which was the plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if that was the plan. They might have had the titles for a while. I don't know what happened with Harry Smith. I don't know if it was a case of COVID. I don't know if it was a case of I don't want to lose it, nitis. But for whatever reason, they did not have another match in the NWA. And now, Doug Williams is retired. Harry Smith hasn't been seen since.
Yeah. Harry Smith hasn't been seen much of anywhere since.
I know he's had health issues too. Like that. Yeah. That guy, I know he trains really hard. I don't know if he's training too hard,
I guess. I don't know.
Hey, look at that. Look who's in the chat. Wait. Look who's in the chat.
I see that. That's what I'm saying. He's scared Papa Wolf. So
that's right. What's up, man? You missed it because we just put you over a few minutes ago. How we're excited to see you challenge for the junior heavyweight title, and that it might be time to see that title change hands. Colby has had a good run. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's been a bad champion or anything like that. It's actually been a really good champion. But I think it'd be a lot of fun to see Mechawolf and Colby Corino trade that title a couple of times, maybe,
Yeah. I mean, ever since we talked about the idea of La Rebellion could still be a team if they wanted to be a team, but they could still do singles if they want to do singles, that kind of whatever. That sure, Mechawolf as junior heavyweight champion, I think would be a very cool thing. And,
okay,
although I think originally we wanted to put him in the TV title.
Yeah, well, yeah, and keep the other thing too. At any point, Bestia could come back and maybe even this is future looking down the road. But what if he challenges Mechawolf for the junior heavyweight title? Right, that'd be interesting. And who knows? Maybe AAA might require or request a junior heavyweight championship down in Mexico. Maybe we could see the junior heavyweight champion, the Royal Crown, head down to Mexico. It's in the realm of possibility.
Now I have a question because I haven't watched many of the shows. So are Mechawolf and Bestia is La Rebellion split like across the world split, or just an NWA split, or
So Bestia has left AAA. He's no longer competing in AAA. I believe, and I don't want to speak for him. Obviously, he's not here, but I know that he's been wrestling a lot for the Crash in Tijuana, and him and Mechawolf have been on some of the same cards. I think they were both wrestling at the last XPW show. I have seen that they have tag teamed a few times since. I know there was a show in Canada that Mechawolf was on that I believe they teamed, and also down in your way, down in Fort Worth, I believe they teamed for sure. Mechawolf said, split Mexico for sure. We'll see about the future. So there it is, right from the horse's mouth right there.
Okay. Just because you don't always know what happens. It was like when the War Kings split in the NWA, they actually did split, because they were wrestling in Texas at the same time. And then Crimson stopped coming to Texas and it was just Jack. So, I mean, it was something that was an actual split.
So what we were talking about was who I wanted or who I thought would be a good challenge for the women's title. Let me pose the question to you because I don't think that you gave an answer. Who do you think should be in that TV title for the women's division, and who do you think should be challenging for the Burke?
TV title, I kind of had basically the same group, the Misa Kate, I feel like the TV title, that's cool to hear with Mechawolf. But Misa Kate, someone who I feel you can do the Kenzie Page thing with, of building up to the world title. You put her on the TV title, or you put the TV title on her, excuse me. And then, she can face a lot of the newcomers. She can face, a lot of the mid-card people that you have around, the Ruthie J's, the Tyler Risings,
Yeah.
That group. And then in the world title picture, I would put Markova, Max, and that's probably like the top ones I would put right now, as far as somebody who needs to be like involved in a feud. We don't really feud anymore. So
I think you're right, man. It feels like there has not been a solid feud in the women's division. I mean, Kenzie and Camille had like this rivalry that went back a couple of years. It seemed like for some point in time, Kenzie was almost like her dance partner everywhere they went. I know she had a shot at the women's title at the Gathering, the event that they do in North Carolina before the anniversary show. I know that she had opportunities on Power, and we're going back 2 years, before she actually had that final shot at Camille at the 75th anniversary show. And I felt like they had been building to that for a long, long time. We haven't seen that in a while. Not on any, like with really any of the team. I mean, look, Mechawolf and Bastia had that feud with the Brothers of Construction. That's obviously done for now. But like, Dax Draper and Mims as a tag team, who were they feuding with? Even as it is right now, you have Matt Cardona jumping into the world title picture. But who has EC3 been feuding with in the NWA? He had one match with Tom Latimer that felt like that was going somewhere, but it hasn't. It didn't go anywhere. The Pretty Empowered kind of had that feud with M95, but now that Misa's gone, Maddie's gone, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere either. Joe Alonso had the great, I don't know if it's a feud or it's just a bunch of great promos, but he was really antagonizing Homicide, and then started antagonizing Colby. But I don't know that there has been a really good feud. At least going into 2024, I can't tell you who I think are the good feuds right now in the NWA.
Yeah, my dogs are barking in the background. But and I think that's part of the thing that and it's not just an NWA issue. This is an issue that's kind of common in wrestling, really outside of the big, 2.5 or so to speak.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what we're talking about. We have Mechawolf. Boy, who would be a better person for Colby Corino to feud with?
I mean, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, right now, looking at the junior heavyweight division in the NWA, and maybe outside the NWA, if you're going to bring in, some of the other people from the territories or whatever, something we haven't talked about yet. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see Mechawolf versus Colby. That's certainly a place where, like you said, I'd be happy watching the title change hands a couple times. Not necessarily in rapid succession, but
no.
You get a 3-4 month reign by Colby, you get a 5-month reign by Mechawolf, you get another 6 months out of Colby if he's still around. And maybe that's a big if. But if not, then you got Mechawolf as your champion. I'm sure that title will be in Mexico quite a bit with him as champion. So, the NWA has the ability to have this concept of a true world championship. And so that's why somebody like EC3, who kind of still wrestles everywhere, and Mechawolf, who, is in Mexico so much, and I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem going anywhere else that wanted to, take him. He talked about him being up in Canada. So it's just, we have some opportunities.
If you haven't listened to the interview that Mechawolf did with me on this channel just a few weeks ago, he even said himself, he's like, I'm looking to just do AAA and NWA events. I'm good with that. But with that being said, he also, right after that, went on like a 7-day bender wrestling all over the country. So, I know that's what he wants, but in the meantime, I think he'll take those bookings when they show up, at least for now. And I'm not trying to speak for you there, Mr. Mechawolf. Please don't eat me. But I think if given the opportunity to showcase that junior heavyweight championship, and I know we're pulling the cart before the horse here, but if he wins the junior heavyweight title, I'm sure he's going to be willing to take it around and defend it. You don't become champion to sit at home. He's definitely, I would imagine, especially with his attitude towards the business, that he'd be happy to take that belt anywhere to defend it, much like Colby has. I feel like that's kind of where they have common ground is, the champions of the NWA. There it is. 3 countries in 9 days. Yeah. The champions of the NWA as of late. I mean, one of the great things that I like about who we have as champions right now is they're defending the titles everywhere. You know, regardless of how you feel about Max the Impaler taking the women's television title to Finland, taking the title to Japan, those are huge milestones for the NWA. Having, you know, when Mechawolf and Bastio were tag team champions, I mean, they were defending the title in the UK, Canada, Australia. You know, Kerry Morton was defending that title all over when he was junior heavyweight champion. And the continuation, Colby's still doing that. You know, we haven't seen Blunt Force Trauma really defending those tag titles outside of the NWA. But aside from them, I think everyone else is really active as champions. They're still taking those belts everywhere.
Yeah, you know, and he points out they took the tag team titles with them in a lot of different places.
Yep.
And that's what you want, right? I mean, you being me and you.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of the people listening is that we want world champions who are world champions. We want world champions who go places and defend not just against the NWA's, you know, top wrestlers, but top wrestlers across the world in their area. That's what makes them the man. You know, that's what, you know, it's something that I think all of us would really, really love to see.
Yeah. And I think, like, look, I think that's because you know, we talk about the history of the NWA, the legacy, the tradition. And although we're in modern times, I don't think that ever stopped. I don't think people ever wanted to see a champion, you know, take a break. You know, it was like, to me, and you know, I'm just gonna say it's an embarrassment when you have Tyrus as your world's heavyweight champion, and that dude defended the title 4 times in 8 months. Yeah, he went to Mexico, which was really freaking cool, but he didn't do that on his own. That was through the negotiations of the NWA and AAA. They put him in the ring with Daga. Unfortunately, Daga got hurt. Daga is a phenomenal athlete. He could have had a great match with Tyrus had he not been injured. But, you know, we didn't get anything out of Tyrus. Every other champion who's held that title has tried to put meaning on it. Like Matt Cardona, he got hurt too, right? His title run was short. But I feel like, you know, when Aldis was champion, he certainly took that belt around the world. You know, Cardona, I felt like, was trying to do that. I know Trevor didn't really get outside too far, but I mean, he did have defenses outside of the NWA, which I think is at least commendable. To me personally, I would like to see, like Mechawolf said, that it's a prestigious title. It should be defended. You know, it's the world's heavyweight championship. It goes to the 75-year history and tradition of the NWA, the longest sanctioning body in the United States. Obviously, CMLL has been around for like 90 years, but the NWA has been around for 75. And I think when you have a champion like that, of course you're going to defend it. And I don't know. I felt like they could have. If you're a champion and you're in the NWA, you should be out there defending that belt.
You know, and something that's important to me are credible champions.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long Mechawolf's been in the business, but we know he's been around, you know, the block. He's been around the block once, twice, you know, however you want to put it. And therefore, my fear with the junior heavyweight title is that it goes the way it did after like the likes of Les Thornton and Tiger Mask and them, where, you know, for the most part, they put it on enhancement talent, or they put it on the very young and new and, you know, kind of fresh. And it's like, no, I want a champion. I want a champion like Homicide, who was the
grizzled veteran.
You know, the grizzled veteran, 22 years in February. See, I was going to say 20 years, but I didn't want to insult him if I was wrong. And, you know, so there we have another grizzled veteran, somebody who can be a world champion, somebody who is credible as a world champion, somebody who you sit there and go, this guy could hold a title in any of the major promotions. You know, that's what we kind of had with Aldis. We sat there and, you know, Homicide. He was a former ROH champion.
Yeah.
World champion. And their top title. And that's what we want. We want, a veteran who can go out there and say, I am the best. And I've proven I'm the best. I was in a tag team and I was in the best. I got the junior heavyweight title and I'm the best. And EC3, you're not that much bigger than me.
Yeah.
So, and actually, I don't know if EC3 is bigger than him or not. But, the idea is like, if I decide to go up into that heavyweight division, I'll be the best there too. That's what we want.
And I mean, if you even look at, and I know we're kind of stuck on talking about the junior heavyweight division, which is not a bad thing, but traditionally, if you look to other wrestling promotions, New Japan Pro Wrestling with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, that belt has always had a lot of credibility and history behind it. And when a guy like Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt was the IWGP World Junior Heavyweight Champion. I mean, he was the leader of the Bullet Club. He might have been the hottest wrestler in New Japan when he was the Junior Heavyweight Champion. I second what you said. I don't want them to put a title on a guy who is new to the business. I want them to put the belt on the guy who can best represent the company. Mechawolf is one of these guys. Colby Corino has been doing a great job. I'm not trying to disparage him at all. And if Colby is victorious, he's still a great dude to be a champion. Mechawolf would be an excellent dude to be champion as well. But, don't put the belt on somebody who's not deserving. That's all I'm asking for.
Right. And so I pulled up his profile on Wikipedia. So hopefully it's pretty accurate here.
You're talking about Mechawolf or Colby?
Mechawolf. And so, he's been the Chicago Style Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Dreamwave Alternative Champion, Fight the World Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Independent Championship Wrestling Alliance Pure Champion, Pure Crown X Champion. So, the International Wrestling Association Junior Heavyweight Champion.
The IWA in Puerto Rico is a big deal. The World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico is a big deal. He's got, we don't have to tell you his resume. He's a great wrestler. You guys see him every time when he's in the NWA, and when he's making his return on Paranoia. That's a matchup. Again, it's not one that I knew I wanted, but I'm glad we're getting it. When we talked, when he was on here, I was telling him, like, I want to see him and Mims in the ring, see what he could do in there. But obviously that's not going to happen. But with Paranoia coming up, we mentioned that matchup. We also mentioned, of course, the intergender match, but there's a lot of good matches that are coming up, and some of them not so much, I don't know what to feel about the Miserably Faithful versus the Kids. Obviously the Miserably Faithful have a lot more in-ring time than the Kids, and maybe this will be a good match to put some growth on the Kids. We have Daisy, Kill, and Talos taking on the new Spectaculars, and with Slade now with Freeman, the Spectaculars are a little bit more believable now. This one I'm not sure how I feel about, but Tom Latimer with Brian Idol. I hope Latimer kicks his ass. I don't have a lot of interest in a Brian Idol match, but I'm a huge Tom Latimer guy. This one is interesting. Blake Troop versus Joe Alonzo. That's not a match that I thought I'd want, but I'm curious as to see how that'll work out. Alonzo runs his mouth, and is he going to run his mouth on Blake Troop, a former MMA fighter? I guess he's still currently an MMA fighter. This one looks like, our pal over at the other Alliance guys, Tim, said, this looks like your uncles are coming over to kick your ass after you and your friends have been messing around in the park. Knox and Murdoch taking on the Southern Six. There's nothing that Ricky Morton's going to do to stop Murdoch's from kicking their ass. This is a match I understand the appeal because Burchill has some recognition from the WWE. but I hate the fact that he hasn't really done anything in the NWA yet, and yet he's getting this title shot. I know it's the notoriety from the name, but God, that bothers me so much. And I don't know what a matchup of death is, the ultimate match of death in quotation marks, but EC3 versus Cardona. I feel like if you're trying to get some attention, you're trying to get some notoriety from the internet wrestling community that might not currently be watching the NWA, that's the matchup that you want. Cardona's got a big name on the indies. He's formerly in the WWE. People know who he is. And what better way to assert dominance is if EC3 could continue his winning ways with a victory over Cardona. Oops, I meant to take down this graphic. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing on Mechawolf, since I was titles. World Wrestling Council, which in the past was one of the top promotions around, and is, I think, once again, the biggest promotion in Puerto Rico. Kind of had its moments, but it was a 2-time Universal Heavyweight Champion, a 1-time Television Champion, and a 2-time Junior Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah.
So again, this is the type of person that you want. Same Universal Championship that Colby Statland's had. Yeah, that's right. And so,
you better smack him with that too, and you beat him.
Yeah. And so, again, is this not the guy that we want holding, world titles in the NWA? Is this not the epitome of what we call a credible guy in wrestling, a credible champion?
You say that again.
I go, is this not what we would call?
Is this? I thought I heard you say this isn't. I'm like, no, this is exactly what I
no,
want.
No, isn't this? Is this not the guy that we would want to be a world champion in the NWA? Person who's held all these singles championships, heavyweight championships, junior heavyweight championships. Don't you want him? Don't you want him to win the junior heavyweight title and then challenge EC3 at some point for the heavyweight title? When was the last time we saw a good junior heavyweight versus heavyweight champion? Well, not since Chase Owens challenged Rob Conway.
Wow.
So that's been a while. But I mean, talk about two guys who make the NWA, who could make nothing against Colby Carino. Lord knows that I've enjoyed his title reign, and I'm not even necessarily into him dropping it at this very moment. But what I'm looking at is, who do you put your titles on that are right for the person, that are right for the championship?
Yeah.
We got Silas Mason in the national championship. I think he's the right guy for the national championship. I think Mims is the right guy for the TV title, if they keep that around somehow, some way, whatever. I think Colby Carino is a good junior heavyweight champion. I think Mechawolf's a good challenger and could be a good junior heavyweight champion. And so that's what you want, isn't it? You want people who you can sit there and go, they've held titles elsewhere. They could go on to hold titles elsewhere again. With Tyrus, you didn't look and go, well, here's a guy who could be champion anywhere. You go, here's a guy that wouldn't be champion anywhere else. And so,
I don't know if you would even have a job anywhere else.
Oh, you said it, not me, but yes.
With that being said, I mean, look, Paranoia is going to be an interesting night, and again, I haven't heard definitively if this is going to air on the CW network or if this is the first season that will be on the CW app. I mean, it's hard to say, man. And there hasn't been a direct correlation between, someone from the CW or someone from the NWA saying what specifically is going to happen. With that all being said, I mean, they're advertising it as a CW television taping. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. I'm assuming it's just going to be on the app. I don't know if it's going to be exclusive to the app or if it'll still end up on YouTube. Obviously, our friends who are out of the country are hoping that it will continue to air on YouTube as it has been, but who knows?
As long as I get to see the junior heavyweight title match. I mean, for me as a wrestling fan.
Well, the cool thing is, if you live in the United States, so you can literally log into the CW app from your PC or your Roku device, your cell phone. You download the app, whatever. But for those who live in the UK or Indonesia, like our friend Dodie, the UK, like our friend Fiona, or our friend Lamb, who lives in Germany, like they don't have access to that.
Well, I'm sorry for them, but I'm far more interested. I'm far more interested in what I get to watch.
So there's a couple things also happening. This is the last show of the year, and
wait a minute. What about the Country Gentleman with Anthony Andrews coming back and teaming with Zion?
That is very interesting as well, and I'm glad you brought us back to that, because it seemed very weird when Anthony Andrews was all of a sudden exited out of the NWA, and there was a lot of speculation and a lot of things were rumored and a lot of innuendo. But the bottom line is he's coming back, and it's one of the more weird moments for the NWA, because typically if you've burnt a bridge, like there's no real going back. And apparently the bridge didn't get burnt far enough, because him coming back is very weird. We had Joe Kazana on our podcast, and he mentioned, like, he didn't mention him by name because obviously he still had a little bit of heat with the guy, but I guess it's good business if you can pull off a worked shoot, I guess. Him coming back to the NWA, teaming up with Zion. I mean, they don't have anything really going on with Zion at the moment either, so it doesn't. It's not the worst thing in the world, but like, it's just such a weird pairing. It's like, who decided to come up with this decision? I would have found a cowboy to put him with. I would have found somebody, to fit that. No, we're the real country gentlemen. Something offbeat like that.
Well, if I had to guess, and this is just 100% a guess, if I had to guess, they needed to use Zion and Austin Idol somewhere.
Sure.
And wow, how the mighty have fallen. Austin Idol, who was sort of the manager of the world champions, now down to...
When Hard Times closed in 2022, he had the world heavyweight champion, the television champion, and the national champion all under his thumb. And now he has 0 champions. His own son disowned him and took off the mask. It's really wild how that all worked out. You know what would have made a lot of sense too is if they used Robert Anthony Ego to team up with Anthony Andrews. Considering that he kind of also, I mean, he didn't leave on bad terms. I mean, we saw him at the next pay-per-view, but he decided no longer to be Zion and decided to go under his own name. I mean, that would have been interesting, kind of like something there too, or not. I guess I could be wrong. The look on your face says it all.
I mean, we'll see.
or how would you feel if the NWA did this route and brought in Cowboy James Storm to team with Anthony Andrews to take on the Country Gentleman? I mean, wow, that's a lot of, obviously he's not a cheap book, but wow, that would be very interesting.
I don't know.
Beer Money 2.0.
They kind of have enough people that they need to use right now.
Sure.
I don't know that you pay the money for James Storm.
Yeah, no, I get that too.
And again, nothing against James Storm specifically. I just don't know that you need to spend the money on him. He's not. My understanding is he doesn't wrestle full time anymore. He just
our pal Matthew Underwood says Jimmy Storm is booked for a TV show, I think, which is great for him. Personally, I want to see everyone make money. I want everyone to be successful.
I want to make money.
I want you to make money. You're about to retire, man. You're gonna sit on that royalty money, or not.
I wish. So, yeah, but the point being that it's just kind of got to wait and see. I think our biggest frustration when it's come to the NWA is that we always see so much potential, and then we always, to quote a former director of mine, he goes, I'm an optimist. He goes, that's why I'm always disappointed.
That's great.
And it's like I think sometimes we see all this talent, we see all this ability, we see all these things that could just go so well in the NWA, and stories that could be developed and things that could be used, and we get Max and Mims for no apparent reason. I mean, it's that type of thing that just makes you go, huh? What? What? Why am I seeing this? Why is this something that I want to do?
So, I know that we're getting close to our time limit. It's not a real time limit, but a time limit. Should we get into talking about the territory system, or how do you feel about that? Do you want to spend some time with that?
Well,
you referenced it earlier.
I have a question. We've got, is it 2 or 3 official?
2.
2, and we think they're adding a third one?
It doesn't seem like it, no.
Okay. How do you see them actually using it? I mean, it's like they got these territories, but I don't have any sense of them having territories.
I tend to.
I mean, it's like, yeah, they've used wrestlers from some of them to kind of fill out their need for wrestlers, but I don't feel like there are territories. I just feel like they're working with other promotions. Kind of.
Well, okay, so I'll say this, and what we've seen so far is that these territories are, in some ways, kind of like a developmental for the NWA. And I know that sounds weird because the NWA isn't that big, but you got to think about it like this. They are not going to be able to compete with the WWE or AEW when it comes to signing free agent talent. We just saw that. Maddie just got picked up by NXT, WWE. We've seen in the past guys like Thunder Rosa and Ricky Starks get signed to AEW. And at some point, Billy can't compete with these companies that are much larger, much more more dollars invested in. And I mean, look, there's a rumor, there's speculation, and you kind of have to believe it. TNA was linked to CM Punk and was linked to Will Ospreay, both losing them out to the bigger companies, but they have an earmarked amount of money that they're going to spend on a free agent. Who knows who that's going to be, but they want to spend money to get some talent too. So when you look at the NWA, who cannot compete with these, it's very much like baseball. You just saw the Dodgers spend over $100 billion on signing free agents this past offseason. And the smaller market teams aren't going to be able to compete with that ability to spend all that money. So their best bet is to develop their farm system. And that's what you're seeing the NWA do right now with both, they have the connection to the wrestling school, obviously the School of Morton, Ricky Morton's school, but also what's his name? Dr. Tom Pritchard's wrestling school. They're helping to develop some new talent, but Dr. Tom's school works very closely with Joe Kazana Promotions, and Joe Kazana's Promotions has already sent quite a few people to the NWA already. That's where we got Thrillbilly from. Thrillbilly kind of worked his way through Joe Kazana Promotions to get to the NWA. That's where AJ Kazana has come from. That's where Devin Dixon is more or less has come from. We just saw the Stu Crew show up on TV just this past weekend. And then also when you look over at what Exodus Pro is doing with EC3's promotion, I mean, now we're seeing guys like Lord Crew make his Power debut. We saw Carson Drake, who had previously challenged for the TV title. Him and Lord Crew teamed up this week on the show. Then we saw the slime balls, whatever they're called. Again, more people are look, you don't have to like them, but they're filling a void for the NWA. They're putting more bodies with some ability in the ring. I feel like that's a good move, and that's where the NWA is going to benefit from these territories. As of yet, we haven't
seen them to be territories to do this.
No, but I think it gives you that closer connection, right? So now that when when Silas Mason went down to Joe Kazana Promotions for the Cofield Soul Christmas, he had not only the JCP heavyweight title, but also the NWA North American Championship, which showed him holding.
National.
What did I say?
North American.
I always do that. Having both those titles, it brings that instant credibility to what Joe Kazana is doing. It brings credibility to what EC3 is doing, and they're going to crown a champion. NWA Midwest is going to crown a champion. The Joe Kazana title is now being referred to as the NWA Southeast champion, and now you have a pipeline to the NWA, and these champions who are going to be showcased on NWA programming, NWA pay-per-views. I feel like it really helps develop that two-way relationship.
All right, I'm going to buy in on all this stuff because it's getting close, and there's some other things I want to talk about.
By the way, Matthew Underwood says Drake is signed, Carson Drake. So I guess that's new information. And yeah, Paladin, they offered him 7 figures, and I believe that offer was very comparable to CM Punk. I think CM Punk had TNA been able to pull him in, they'd be cooking right now. They didn't. Go ahead.
So, some other stuff going on. We've talked about this. Doing a lot of stuff in Florida. No pay-per-views have been announced. Is that a big deal that there hasn't been a pay-per-view announced? That we don't seem to be. These live events are cool, but do they? And I'm not saying they do. I'm asking the question. Do they need to get back on the pay-per-view bill, or if they're only having 200 people buy, why bother?
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how official those pay-per-view numbers are, but that doesn't sound overly promising. And we don't know what CW is paying them for this content, right? If they're getting a big money deal from CW, maybe it's better to forego the pay-per-view route. Just, hey, if we produce this content and it airs on CW, we're making more money doing that than we are doing pay-per-views. At that point, what's the point of doing pay-per-views?
Yeah, I think one of the problems is the mentality of the fan. And that just like they think, well, you got to be on TV or you're not anything. I think in their heads, I think, well, if you're not on pay-per-view, then, you're not real or whatever.
I think that is such a misnomer. I think when you look at MLW, right? And
I don't think it's true, by the way. I do want to throw that out there. I don't think it's true, but there is a mentality. You'll get, well, they're not doing this, they're not doing that.
Hey, I'm going to be right back. I'm going to give you center stage. I'll be right back.
Okay, he's giving me center stage. So one of the things I think I'm going to talk about is that I actually did go see the Iron Claw movie this morning. And I know it said last week I wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to see or not because I lived through the trauma of it. and I wasn't sure I wanted to relive it. But talking to Kevin Frazier and some others, we agreed that it probably best if, I just went and saw it and got my own ideas and my own opinions of it. I primarily agree with Jaden's review of it. It's almost a tale of two different movies. There's the first half before David dies, which is actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it. The guy that played Carrie, probably an awesome actor, but he distracted me so much that he was so small. I mean, there are a couple of scenes when he's with Mike, and Mike is bigger than him. It's just like, oh my gosh. It just really, really bothered me. The wigs did suck. I did not think Efron sucked. I thought he was fine. And it's the second half, and again, it was going back to what Jaden said last week, it was just too fast. Just, Carrie won the title, which was been like the big focus of the movie up until that moment. And then like everything changed. It was just like, okay, we got to get to this tragedy. Now we got to get to that tragedy. Now we got to get to another tragedy. And I did read one of the things that they've been criticized about was not having Chris in the film. And one of the reasons they didn't have Chris in the film, according to the people behind it, was that they almost felt like that was too much repetition and too much tragedy. And by the time he passed away, they were already kind of out of the spotlight. So they kind of went on to that. I also didn't really like the way they portrayed Doris. I don't know I wasn't there. I don't know, but I've heard stories involving their mother, and they don't fit the narrative that the movie had. And so maybe I'm wrong, but that wasn't the way it fit. And I did like one scene towards the end. I'm not going to say what it was, but they couldn't leave it just dark, and so they did something that was a little bit uplifting towards the end, and I appreciated that. Overall, should you see it or not? If you go into it as a movie about a family tragedy and not a movie about wrestling history, yes, I'm okay. It's okay. If you want to relive your glory days of world class, no, don't. There's very little wrestling involved in it. And so that's kind of going to be my review. Just not the worst movie, not the best movie. First half better than the second half. It's a movie about family tragedy. It's not a movie. Another thing they did is like nobody got married but Kevin. And if I remember correctly, I don't know about Chris, but I'm pretty sure Mike, David, and of course Carrie was getting divorced. It was either divorced or getting divorced at the time of his death. So and there are family pictures at the end that were pretty cool.
I'm glad that I missed your review because I'm supposed to see it this weekend, and I still don't really know a lot about what to expect. So I'm still like I know it's going to have the the family trauma and stuff like that, but I did hear about Chris, and I don't want to say anything more, but I'm excited to go see it. And I think,
it was if you get caught up, the timelines don't fit.
Sure.
They have Kevin challenging for the NWA title in '86, and of course, by then they already had left the NWA, and Flair never brought Big Gold here, and the Big Gold they used, I think, was the very first Figures Inc. Big Gold that was ever done. And yeah, honestly, I find it funny, but the title that was the most accurate was the Texas title that Kevin held, except for that Kevin wasn't the Texas champion until much later. He was the American champion. And so
how was Gino Hernandez in it? Was he good?
He's not in it a lot.
Wasn't that MJF?
No other wrestlers in there a lot. I mean, there's like not even Chris Adams, Iceman Parsons. Early on, you see Sheik, Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody and Hernandez are probably in it more than others. They actually have some lines. The guy that did Ric Flair was okay.
I saw the Ric Flair promo and I was like, oh, that's rough.
Yeah. His best scene is actually in the locker room after the match. And yeah, just what it is, what it is. It's probably not a story for a movie theater. Probably a story that's more for like we said, like a mini series.
Yeah. All right.
And everything. But yeah, they did have an uplifting thing at the end and some nice family pictures at the end. A couple of family pictures at the end. But it was hard reliving parts of it. Especially the one that was hardest for me was probably Mike's death. Because that just flooded back memories. MJF was in it as Lance Von Erich, but you'd never know that's who he was unless you were already told. I mean, just watching what was going on in the ring. And they do kind of bury him a little bit. Not in an ego way. And I'll just leave it like that. MJF was very MJF in his scenes or scene.
Was he just playing MJF with a wig on or what?
Yes, basically. So,
well, I do want to say this. As we are in the last minutes of this episode of the Alliance Guys live stream podcast, I want to thank all of you guys for joining us for nearly 52 times this year as we've talked about the NWA, whether it be me, DKM, Jaden, or Tim, or the occasional other guests we've had on the show. This has been a phenomenal year of growth for this channel. Some of you who have been with us since day one saw us from 100 subscribers all the way to like 2,500 subscribers. There was an estimation that this channel would hit 3,000 subscribers by sometime in April, and I think we're going to hit that and crush it even before April. And that all happens because of you guys, you being a part of our weekly live streams, being active in the chat, leaving comments afterwards, thumbing up the video, sharing it, subscribing. All that stuff is built on your backs. And, this channel and the growth of this channel, again, is attributed to what you guys do for us. And hopefully what we do for you, which is provide you with a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of tongue-in-cheek comedy from now and then, but ultimately giving you the most realist wrestling talk that we can imagine for you. So I want to say thank you guys. This year has been such a fun year. I got to, was starting with last year getting to meet DKM in person, getting to meet Jaden in person, getting to meet Tim in person. I met Dave Scooby last year, but a lot of you guys we got to meet in St. Louis or in Glassboro or wherever it's been. And it's been an honor to meet you guys and Sam Retro. I don't want to forget Sam. To be Fuzz. There's so many names. Lou Thez is here. But it's been really cool. And I really appreciate you guys making us part of your weekly viewing habits. Like, you have tons of options. There's wrestling on right now. if you want to watch something else, there's so many options, but you guys choose to hang out with us every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And that means so much to me, man. And as we end this year, calling it out, thank you so much. In store for 2024 is a hell of a lot more. DK, is there anything you want to end the year on?
Let's hope for a better year in 2024 as far as booking goes. But it has been a good year for alliance-wrestling.com, and it's been a good year for the YouTube channel, and we do appreciate it. Really, I'm just kind of along for the ride, but I certainly feel Jay's excitement and joy. So let's see what 2024 has in store for all of us.
The rumor has it that there's going to be a 30-minute segment each week next year of just DK yelling at somebody.
Well, I don't know if that'll be 30 minutes, but there's probably I will probably yell at somebody or about something over the course of next year.
So cheers to everyone who's here. Cheers to you if you're watching it later. We do appreciate you guys. DK, as we wrap it up, where can folks follow you on the socials?
At DKMFWTX. I haven't been overly active recently, but you never know with me. It may spurt out of nowhere. College wrestling's getting ready to start up in their big dual meets here in January. It's already going, but January is the hot season. So you would certainly probably see me post occasionally about some amateur wrestling.
And of course, you can follow us on all social medias. I put the link right here in the chat, but it's also available in the video description. We're on Discord. Join the Discord. Come join, be a part of the community we're building there. Of course, we're on Instagram. We're on all the apps, all the social medias. But Discord is where we could really still talk wrestling even when the cameras aren't rolling. Make sure you do that because we have a great community growing there. And of course, we'll be doing more of this next year. I'm hoping, and I don't want to say it 100% confirmed, but I'm hoping next week we're going to have an all-in Alliance show. The other guys will be joining us, hopefully, to talk year-end awards, and if not, we'll be doing it the following week. But again, Happy New Year, guys. Thanks so much for your support. And I guess, and DK, if that's nothing else, man, then it's time to say we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.